I paid for every semester of my granddaughter's nursing degree. 4 years. $118,000. I found out at her pinning ceremony that she'd listed her other grandmother as her emergency contact and her inspiration. I was seated in the last row, behind a support column. I couldn't even see the stage. But I heard her speech just fine. She thanked everyone who believed in her. Her parents, her friends, her Nana Joe. She never said my name, not once. I sat there with my purse on my lap and a card in my hand. A check inside for her first month's rent at her new apartment. I'd written on the card, "The world is lucky to have you. Love, Grandma." I put the card back in my purse. I didn't stay for the reception. My name is Lorraine. I'm 71 years old. I've been a widow for 6 years, a mother for 47, and apparently invisible for longer than I care to count. The drive home took 40 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio. I just let the highway hum underneath me and tried to understand how a woman who once rocked that girl to sleep every Friday night for 3 years straight could become someone not worth mentioning in a 2-minute speech. When I got home, I hung my coat on the hook by the door and stood in the kitchen for a long time. The house was dark. I hadn't left any lights on because I'd expected to be home late, expected to be at the reception, holding a plastic cup of punch and smiling at strangers while my granddaughter introduced me around. That was the version of tonight I'd rehearsed. Instead, I made toast. 1 slice. I ate it standing over the sink because sitting down felt like too much commitment to the evening. My son, Greg, called the next morning. "You left early?" "I wasn't feeling well," I said. "Oh." Well, she was disappointed. I doubted that very much, but I didn't say so. "You should come to dinner this weekend," he continued. "Denise is making pot roast." Denise is his wife. She makes pot roast the way some people make excuses, frequently and without much flavor. But I said I'd think about it. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Greg used to eat cereal before school, where my husband Arthur used to spread out the newspaper and read me headlines in funny voices. I looked at the chair across from me, the empty one, and I realized something I'd been avoiding for years. I wasn't part of their family anymore. I was adjacent to it, like a fence post near a garden. Technically close, but not in the soil. That realization didn't hit me like a truck. It settled over me like dust, quiet and everywhere. I went to the filing cabinet in the spare room, Arthur's old office. I hadn't opened it in months. Inside were folders labeled in my handwriting, neat block letters that now looked like artifacts from a more organized woman. Insurance, mortgage, Greg education, Chloe education fund. I pulled out the Chloe folder. Inside were bank statements, transfer receipts, tuition payment confirmations, 4 years of payments made from my retirement savings, pulled monthly and sent directly to the bursar's office. Arthur and I had started that fund when Chloe was born. After he died, I continued it alone. I sold his truck to cover the 3rd year. I skipped replacing my furnace one winter to cover a tuition increase. No one asked me to do this, but no one told me to stop either. At the bottom of the folder was a birthday card Chloe had sent me 3 years ago. It said, "Thanks for everything, Grandma. You're the best." A generic card from a drugstore rack. Inside, she hadn't written anything else. I closed the folder and placed it on the table. Then I called a woman named Diane. We'd met through the library's volunteer program years ago. She wasn't exactly a friend, more like a woman whose steadiness I admired. She'd worked in estate planning before she retired. I told her I needed advice about wills, trusts, and financial documents. She didn't ask what happened. She just said, "Bring your paperwork. I've got coffee and no plans." I slept that night with the window cracked open. The spring air was cool and smelled faintly of jasmine from the bush. Arthur planted the year we moved in. I dreamed of nothing, which felt like a mercy. In the morning, I dressed like I was going to court. Pressed trousers, a good blouse, Earrings I hadn't worn in a
It's
year.
not gone.
Not for
What
Diane.
notifications I just
For
get?
me.
Oh.
Because when you're about to rewrite the terms of your own life, you should look like you mean it. Diane lived in a one-story brick house near the old elementary school.
Yeah, I was really emotional about it.
Inside,
Anyway,
everything
it
was
is good stories
organized,
about him and
the
him,
way
so
only a
that's
woman who
amazing.
once filed other people's futures could
literally picking
manage.
him up in 2
She
days.
spread
I'm
my
off in 4
documents
days.
across her
Plans.
dining table
Wednesday,
and
I'm
read
picking up
quietly,
Amanda and
nodding now
Chewie.
and then. "You've been
Or actually,
generous,"
Amanda's coming here.
she said
And
after a
Amanda are
while.
saying, "Hi, Soraya."
"Very
And
generous.
Amanda and I are
Too
going to pick up
generous,"
Chewie
I
together.
corrected. She looked up.
Isn't that
"Your
exciting?
will currently names Greg
Amanda gets
as
to see his
executor
boyfriend with
and
me.
primary
Woohoo!
beneficiary. Chloe is listed as
Thank you in the office.
secondary.
Thank you for speaking.
Your
I won't
house,
tell HR.
your savings,
There goes the hype train.
your
Thank
life
you.
insurance, all of it
I'm a
funnels through your
co-passer from
son.
Donnell.
I know.
Chewie
And the
Amanda.
tuition
Look, can I show you
payments?
what I do? Hang on.
There's no loan, no promissory note.
There
You
go.
gave it outright.
So,
I nodded.
legally,
She folded her hands.
I'm sat like this.
Then,
There you go.
legally,
Look, I actually still have
it's
so
gone.
much space as well.
You can't recover
It's only
tuition
like a
already
drawer.
paid, but everything else?
I'm usually sat
She
here like
tapped the
this.
stack. This is still yours.
Like,
Every last line of it. I want to change the will, I said. Remove Greg as executor. Remove him and Chloe as beneficiaries.
because I
She
have
didn't
hypomobile
flinch.
hips,
She
I
just
can
picked
sit
up a
in this
pen.
position as well.
Who replaces them?
That's
I
really
don't
good.
know yet. Maybe a professional
Star
executor.
baby.
Maybe a
It is,
charity.
actually. That's a good time
I
to sit
just
here. You can sit
know
like this.
it won't be someone who
Rather
seats
than
me behind a
sitting
column.
fold.
She wrote that down without comment. We worked for 2 hours. She explained revocable trusts, beneficiary designations, powers of attorney.
Mike has a sword.
I'd given Greg medical
he's on
power
really
of
helping
attorney
me out,
after my
good
hip
night, and he's
surgery
very,
2
very
years
tiny
ago.
volunteer.
He'd never once asked how I was healing. Denise sent a
Yeah,
text
just
that said
fucking
glad it
waffle
went
on my chat
okay
right
with
now.
no punctuation.
Set my foot-
Revoke it, I said.
None of the women in the
Diane
gym could
printed the
do this.
forms.
I was the only one who could
I
do it.
signed them in the kitchen, with the morning light behind me and the coffee going cold. It
My
didn't
God, apparently
feel
got
like
it.
revenge. It felt like
Oh,
arithmetic.
please.
I was simply recalculating who had earned what. That evening,
Better behave.
I went through the house with a black garbage bag. Not for trash, but for decisions.
Someone date me.
Every gift I'd bought for
Someone
Greg's
date me.
family that had been returned or regifted or forgotten. The cashmere scarf Denise said was not really her color. The wooden train set I'd hand-painted for their younger son, Max, that I found last Christmas, still in its box, in their garage. The framed photo of Arthur and me on our wedding day that I'd given Greg years ago, which he'd stored in his basement behind a broken exercise bike. He'd returned it last spring during a clean-out without apology or explanation. I placed each item in the bag, not with anger, with clarity. On Wednesday, I went to the bank. First Regional, where Arthur and I had opened our joint account in 1981. I asked for the branch manager. A young man named Daniel met me with a handshake that was too firm and a smile that was just right. I'd like to review every account where my son is listed as a co-signer, authorized user, or beneficiary, I said. He pulled up the records. You have 3 accounts with secondary access granted to Gregory Pace: a checking, a savings, and a money market. Remove him from all 3. Cancel any cards. Change the PINs, the passwords, the security questions, everything. He hesitated. That's significant access removal. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of a financial decision in my life. He typed slowly at first, then faster as the weight of my certainty settled in. When it was done, he handed me a printout. The accounts were mine alone. 43 years of saving, scrimping, teaching piano lessons, skipping vacations so that fund could grow. Arthur would have understood. He always said, "Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, Lorraine." I used to think that was cynical. Now, I think it was the most loving thing he ever told me. The phone calls started Thursday. First, Greg. "Mom, the bank called about a card cancellation. What's going on?" I didn't answer. Then Denise.
Oh no.
"Lorraine, this is getting confusing. Greg's upset. Can we just talk?" I didn't answer that one either. Then a text from Chloe. "Grandma, Dad says something weird is going on. Are you okay?" I stared at the screen for a long time.
We sat inside
She
and
didn't
so
ask
sorry.
about the ceremony,
It feels
didn't
like
mention the
awful to
empty
say
seat
this,
or the
but
missing name. She asked because Greg told her to ask. I turned the phone off and went outside. The garden needed weeding.
Cool desk
I knelt in the
views.
dirt and pulled clover and crabgrass for an hour, the soil dark and cold under my fingernails. There's something honest about getting dirty on purpose. You don't have to explain yourself to the earth. The weekend came. I did not go to dinner. I did not call. I did not send a text explaining myself or smoothing things over. For the first time in decades, I simply didn't show up, and I let the silence do the talking. On Monday, I contacted a real estate attorney named Frank Moda. Diane had recommended him. I told him I wanted to place my house in a living trust with no family beneficiaries. He asked what I wanted done with the property after I passed. Sell it, I said. Give the proceeds to the county literacy program. He paused. That's a meaningful gift. It's a meaningful house, I said. 40 years of mortgage payments, every one on time. Arthur would have liked knowing it went towards something that taught people to read. He was the one who read to our son every night, not that Greg remembers. Frank drew up the documents. I signed them in his office with a notary who wore a butterfly brooch and called me sweetheart in the gentlest way. That afternoon, I stopped at a bakery I'd driven past 1,000 times but never entered. I bought a slice of lemon cake and ate it in my car in the parking lot. The frosting was too sweet, and the cake was a little dry, and it was the most satisfying thing I'd eaten in months because I chose it without reason or occasion or anyone else's appetite in mind. Greg came to the house on Tuesday evening. I saw his truck pull into the driveway. He sat in it for several minutes before getting out. When he knocked, I opened the door, but didn't step aside. Mom, what is going on? I looked at him. He had Arthur's jaw, but none of his patience. You changed the locks, he said, noticing the new deadbolt. I did. You dropped me from the bank accounts. Also true. He ran a hand through his hair. Is this about the ceremony? Chloe said, you left early. She was upset. She didn't notice I was there, Greg. I sat behind a concrete column. She thanked everyone but me. I paid for 4 years of her education, and she credited Nana Joe for believing in her. His face shifted. Something between guilt and calculation. She was nervous. It was a speech. She probably just forgot. She forgot. That's your answer, he exhaled. Mom, come on. You can't punish everyone because of one bad night. One night? I shook my head slowly. Do you know where I sat at Max's birthday last year? On a lawn chair by the garage, away from everyone. Because Denise said the kids needed space. Do you know the last time you called me that wasn't about a favor or a logistics question? I don't. Because it hasn't happened. That's not fair. None of this has been fair, Greg. I just stopped pretending it was. He stood there, jaw tight. So, you're cutting us off. I'm choosing differently. There's a distinction. And what about the kids? Max asks about you. Max is welcome to call me. So is Chloe. But I'm not going to keep showing up to places where I'm tolerated, like a seasonal decoration they forgot to take down. His eyes went damp. He blinked it away. You're my mother, and you're the man who let his wife seat me behind a pillar at my own granddaughter's ceremony and didn't say a word. He left without another sentence. I watched him back out of the driveway, and I closed the door. Not hard, just enough. That night I cried. I set a timer on the microwave for 5 minutes and let myself feel everything. When the timer went off, I washed my face, made chamomile tea, and opened my journal. I wrote, grief and dignity can share a room, but only one gets the bed. Days passed. I packed nothing. I wasn't leaving yet. I was rearranging from the inside. I called the literacy program and told them about the future gift. The director, a woman named Sandra, went quiet for 10 seconds before she said, "This will change lives. It already has, I told her. I signed up for a watercolor class at the community center. I'd always wanted to try. Arthur used to say I had an eye for color but no patience for slow things. He was wrong about the patience. I'd been patient for 47 years with a son who slowly stopped seeing me. That takes more patience than any painting. On Thursday, someone knocked. Soft, uncertain, not Greg. When I opened the door, Max was standing there. 12 years old, shaggy hair, untied sneakers, a backpack hanging off one shoulder. He was holding a Tupperware container. Mom made cookies, he said. She said to bring them. I looked at the container, then at him. But I also wanted to come, he added quickly. Like, not just because of the cookies. I stepped aside. Come in. He sat at the kitchen table and looked around like he was cataloging everything. Your house smells good, he said. Like cinnamon. I always keep a stick of it in the drawer, just for the smell. He nodded, serious, as if this were important information. He opened the Tupperware and pushed it toward me. They're oatmeal raisin. I made them mostly. Mom just did the oven part. I took one. It was lopsided and slightly burned on the bottom, and absolutely perfect. We talked for an hour. He told me about a volcano project he was building for science class, about a book he was reading where a kid builds a raft and floats down a river, about how his dad had been quiet lately, and his mom kept cleaning things that were already clean. I didn't ask about Greg or Denise. I didn't need to. Before he left, he stopped at the door. Grandma, are you mad at us? I knelt down so I could look him in the eyes. I'm not mad, sweetheart. I'm just making sure the people in my life are here because they want to be, not because they're supposed to be. He thought about that. I want to be here, he said. Then, you're always welcome. He hugged me. Quick, tight, the way boys do when they're afraid someone's watching. Then he ran down the steps and pedaled away on his bike. I stood in the doorway for a long time after that. The following week, Denise called. Not Greg, Denise. Her voice was controlled the way it always was, like she was hosting an event, even on the phone. Lorraine, we need to discuss what's happening. I'm listening. Greg is devastated. The kids are confused. And frankly, I think you're being dramatic. I let the words sit between us. Dramatic? I repeated. Yes. One bad seating arrangement and you blow up the entire family? It wasn't one seating arrangement, Denise. It was years of being treated like a courtesy copy on an email no one reads. I paid for your daughter's education. I babysat your children every weekend for 3 years. I drove 2 hours in a snowstorm to bring soup when Max had pneumonia, and at Chloe's ceremony, I was behind a column, alone. We didn't plan the seating. The venue did. But you didn't fix it either. Silence. You've always been sensitive, Lorraine. I smiled then, though she couldn't see it. And you've always mistaken silence for agreement. She hung up. I poured myself a glass of water and drank it slowly. That weekend, Chloe called. I almost didn't answer. But something in the way the phone rang, maybe I imagined it, sounded different. Smaller. Grandma? Her voice cracked on the second syllable. I'm here. I'm sorry. She took a shaky breath. I should have said your name. I should have thanked you. I don't know why I didn't. I practiced the speech 20 times and I froze. And then Mom said Nana Jo would be hurt if I didn't mention her, and I ran out of time, and I know that's not an excuse. I didn't respond right away. I let her sit in the discomfort because she needed to feel it, not because I wanted her to suffer. You paid for everything, she continued. And I acted like it came from nowhere, like the money just appeared. Like you didn't sell Grandpa's truck. I closed my eyes. You knew about the truck? Max told me. He heard Dad talking about it. The room was very quiet. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now, she said. I'm asking if I can try to deserve it. I thought about the card in my purse. The one I never gave her. The check for her first month's rent. You can try, I said. But not through your father. Not through Denise. You come to me directly. Honestly, or not at all. I will. She came the next day. No makeup, no pretense. Just a girl in jeans and a wrinkled jacket sitting across from me at the kitchen table, eating oatmeal raisin cookies her brother had taught her to make. She told me about her new job at the hospital, about the patient on her first day who held her hand and called her angel, about how scared she was of failing. I told her about the watercolor class, about how I'd painted a lemon so badly the instructor said it looked like a tennis ball in a rainstorm. She laughed so hard she choked on her tea. Before she left, she handed me a small frame. Inside was her nursing pin, the one from the ceremony. I want you to have it, she said. You earned it more than I did. I held it in my palm. Such a small thing. Such a heavy thing. She visited again the following week. And the one after that. She came alone. She came honestly. Max came too, usually on his bike, usually with Tupperware. He started a habit of bringing me articles he'd printed from the internet about random things, how octopuses have 3 hearts, how the oldest tree in the world is over 5,000 years old, how a woman in Texas once knitted a sweater for a penguin. He'd tape them to my fridge with a magnet and say, "For your collection." I didn't have a collection, but I started one. Greg didn't come. He sent one letter, handwritten, left in my mailbox without a stamp. Mom, I don't understand everything, but I'm starting to understand I wasn't paying attention. I'm not good at this. I never learned how to say I'm sorry without trying to fix it at the same time. I'm not asking for the accounts or the will or the house. I'm asking for a chance to sit at your table again, whenever you're ready. If you're ever ready. I read it twice. Then I folded it and placed it in a drawer. Not the trash, not the shelf. A drawer, somewhere between gone and welcome. Somewhere honest. 2 months later, I enrolled in a second class. Ceramics this time. I made a bowl that looked like it had been shaped by a toddler with ambitions. I brought it home and placed it on the kitchen counter and filled it with tangerines. Sandra from the literacy program invited me to read to children on Tuesday mornings. I said yes. The first time, a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile sat in my lap and said, "You sound like a grandma." I said, "That's because I am one." She said, "A good one?" And I said, "I'm learning to be." One evening in late autumn, I sat on my porch in the last light of the day. The air cool, the trees turning amber and rust. My tangerine bowl was on the railing. My journal was open in my lap. Inside, I'd written a single line that morning. I am not a leftover. I am the meal. Max's latest article was taped to the fridge inside. It was about a species of jellyfish that's technically immortal because when it gets old or sick, it reverts back to its youngest form and starts over. I thought about that jellyfish for a long time. Then I closed my journal, finished my tea, and went inside to make banana bread, for no one in particular, and no reason at all except that I still could. And the oven was warm, and the house smelled like cinnamon, and my name was still mine. And the door was locked from the inside, with a window cracked just enough for the ones who show up, not because they're told to, but because they remember that love is a verb, not an inheritance.